think, Marge. All I need is a title.
In today's political overview, we will have a little on the continuing drama in the U.S. Senate with the resignation announcements of both Jeff Flake and Orrin Hatch, both Republicans from the neighboring states of Arizona and Utah. Then we'll take a look at the situation in the U.S. House of Representatives, and we'll wrap up with a look at the president's numbers and some predictions about the midterm elections as things stand right now. Please note, however, that this political overview series will continue until just after the 2018 elections. First, let's have a quick look at the Arizona Senate race, where in the GOP primary, we have Martha McSally and Joe Arpaio in a dead heat, followed only a couple points behind by Kelly Ward. Miss Ward had recently been the frontrunner, but has slipped somewhat in recent polling. Recent support from Steve Bannon may have been responsible for Ward's slippage in the polls, but as the article from ABC News states, November is an eternity away in the political world, and Ward should be able to make up for this slight dip in her ratings. Ward made an appearance on the Todd Starnes radio show and referred to McSally as another in the Jeff Flake mold of Republicans, whereas she claims to be more conservative. Joe Arpaio is well known from his career as the former Maricopa County Sheriff who implemented very tough policies regarding the treatment of inmates at the county jail. We would note that the election of either Ward or Arpaio to the seat being vacated by Jeff Flake would represent what we've been calling the Trumpification of the Republican Party, as both Ward and Arpaio would likely put a lot of their support behind the policy agenda of President Trump. Politics City would endorse either Arpaio or Ward, as the GOP should try to elect a senator who will more fully support President Trump in his policies. For the moment, the race is too close to call. Mitt Romney seems to be prepping for a Senate run in Utah, where veteran Senator Orrin Hatch is retiring. Recent news articles state that Romney or his associates are starting to lay the groundwork for such a run, and if Mitt does get into the political scene in Utah, he'll probably win, simply on the basis of name recognition alone. And in the case of Utah, Romney's personal popularity may override any popularity from President Trump. Romney has also made several disparaging comments about the president, so while he may end up supporting the president on some issues simply because he's of the same party, he has gotten a lot of flack from conservatives who believe that he is too close to the establishment Republicans. With this in mind, the election of Romney would not be an example of Trumpification in Utah. Depending on what happens, Politics City might end up supporting Romney. If he clears the field and ends up being the GOP nominee, then he is worthy of support. If a candidate who is more supportive of Trump's policies can step in and take the race away from Romney, then the prospective candidate would be worthy of support. It may also be the case that a stint in the U.S. Senate might be a means of rehabilitating Romney's political career, following his defeat in the 2012 presidential election. One 6-year term would mean that he would be running for election again in 2024. The question would be he be running again for another Senate term, or would he make another bid for the White House? Speaking of the White House, the Democrats at this point are still pinning their hopes on possibly taking over the U.S. House of Representatives in the November 2018 election. This would then allow them to draft articles of impeachment against President Trump, with obstruction of justice in the Mueller investigation being their likely path. The problem is that despite what you might hear from the mainstream fake news media, President Trump actually had a solid first year, with the nomination of Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch, the passage of the tax reform plan in December, along with all of the deregulation and the rescinding of Obama-era restrictions that have been holding the U.S. economy back. Even in the direct aftermath of the passage of the tax reform bill, before any effects could be felt in the economy, companies started announcing that they were bringing money back into the U.S. from overseas, and other companies started paying out large bonuses to their employees. In 2017, the economy grew at 3%, which is decent, but it's also a lot more than anything that happened under the Obama administration. And growth is expected to continue and expand in 2018. With that in mind, although President Trump's approval numbers are at about 40%, we can expect those numbers to improve as the year progresses. The big issues for this next year seem to be a permanent solution to the DACA issue and some sort of infrastructure fix. The Dems want a solution to DACA, and they are in favor of infrastructure expansion, so they are down to opposing such things only because the president supports them. This is not a strategy that will win back the U.S. House in November, nor will it make much of a dent in the U.S. Senate, where they are still defending more seats than the GOP is. At this point in time, Politics City predicts that on the basis of the strong economy and the passage of bills on both of this year's priorities, that the GOP will retain control of the U.S. House, and they will actually expand their control in the U.S. Senate.